Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. Pardon me if I sound a little slow. I'm just coming straight from the airport, so I haven't had any sleep. But I'm delighted to be here. And I could go on and on about the challenges that we face. But let me just start by saying that 99% of the questions that I get in Parliament from my colleague MPs are on when connectivity will be extended to their communities. And so rural telephony, and many of them come from rural communities. It's a major problem. And largely, it's the cost of extending connectivity to those sites that is making it difficult for us to do so. And so government took it upon itself to take a facility, 155 million euros, 3 years ago, to bridge this coverage gap. And we designed it in such a way that it would be a partnership between government and the private sector. We put in the infrastructure, the network operators provide the services on top of that infrastructure in a revenue share model. One of the interesting findings that we made is that even in areas that we assumed were not viable, once the sites went live, usage increased there, and some of them had been scaled up to largely commercial sites. And so there's a business case to be made for extending connectivity to rural areas. And let's not underestimate the fact that they do not have enough finances and so will not use it. However, the cost of connecting remote rural communities, either by satellite or terrestrial means, still remains high. And the satellite solutions that are currently available seem to be beyond unaffordable to those living in those communities. So even though it came with a lot of promise, or it comes with a lot of promise, the low Earth orbit satellites and solutions and the high altitude platforms that are being pioneered or rolled out across the various parts of the world. We do need to look at the cost of those connectivity solutions, particularly for rural communities. Power, electricity, to power those sites also remains a major challenge. And so for the rural telephony solution that we are implementing, which we call the Ghana Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion Project, 50% of those sites are powered by solar. And that's our way of also experimenting with green technology within the telecoms infrastructure space. It's working well, but the initial cost of deploying those solutions are also not cheap. So we come back to the problem of financing these indispensable digital infrastructure networks that we all require. All of us, and I'm speaking for Ghana, but I can speak for all of the countries in the sub-region. We face similar challenges. We are trying to build our broadband networks to our borders to facilitate connectivity to our neighboring countries. And we're trying to utilize aerial fiber to deliver those solutions. And it's also less expensive than terrestrial fiber, but it also comes at a cost. We're seeing increasingly that in the current economic challenges that the world is going through, there's a scale back, a pullback on investment in telecommunications and many other sectors, particularly on the African continent. And even those existing operators are either withdrawing from our countries or selling their telecoms assets or in our countries. And so this disinvestment in telecommunications in Africa is also ultimately going to harm us if we cannot find replacements for the investments that we're losing. And so let's see what we can do to work together to see that we're not shortchanged. In an increasingly interconnected world, we cannot sit back and watch what is happening on the continent continue. If it does, it will come back to bite all of us again. And we'll still see streams of migrants leaving our shores to end up in the UK and in other parts of Europe and America. They should be welcome, but that influx may not always be welcome if it turns into a flood. And we'll see closing of the borders instead of opening of our borders to all of us. So let's all work together to make Africa a hospitable place for those of us who live there, not by choice and by birth, and those who would choose to make that their home. And once we have power, we have connectivity, decent connectivity, it's quite possible to live and work quite freely in any part of the world. And I've said so many times, I'll repeat that here. Africa, with its demographic dividend, presents an opportunity for the rest of the world. Because if we give our populations the digital skills that they need today, they will provide the manpower for the global world of work in 10, 20 years' time, maybe even sooner. But we need to start now by working to give our young people in Africa and the global south the digital skills that they need, so it doesn't become a problem for the global community, but becomes a solution to an emerging challenge. Bottom line is money. We need investment, greater investment in the sector. And it pays off. In the rural telephony solution that we've designed in Ghana, it's a revenue share model, as I indicated. Because the infrastructure is put in by government, which is bearing the whole cost of deploying the network. 70% of the revenues that accrue on the network are designed to go to government and 30% to the network operators. But it's a win-win for all of us because they expand their subscriber base, deliver all manner of solutions to the new subscribers that they've got, and earn decent revenues from it. So if we work together in partnership with the private sector, we can design solutions that will ultimately benefit government in terms of extending connectivity to all parts of the country, our countries, and the private sector in terms of the potential revenues that they can get from that network. And by powering the countryside as well, we reduce crime, we promote employment, growth, we can deliver all manner of services to the people living in those areas and provide inclusion for them as well while reducing poverty. So what's keeping us from utilizing this, for me, very obvious answer to multiple problems on the continent? I think together we can find an answer to that question. Thank you.